Good morning, folks. So now that I'm done with my rant, I can be a little more rational this morning. Get a couple of other things we need to talk about, okay? Especially relative to last night's game against the Phoenix Mercury. But first, let's dispel another myth because this one I've seen several comments on. I think only one in our community, but on several other communities that I follow relative to Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, and that is that Caitlin Clark should not have worked out over the summer and bulked up because that's why she's injured. That is not based in any fact whatsoever. That is completely not why Caitlin Clark is injured. It indeed makes her faster, makes her stronger, makes her have more endurance. And honestly speaking, I was at the game on the 15th of June, and it's not like she's like this massive, built, muscular human being. She still looks pretty small to me on that court, okay? She's 6 feet. She's slightly built, okay? That whole narrative of she shouldn't have done what she did, you're blaming her for her own injuries when you do that. And that's not it's not scientifically or medically accurate in any sense of the word. Okay. So we should put that whole discussion to bed. All right. There are going to be injuries throughout her career. People get injured in sports. Okay. And it's not always because they're being targeted either. Right now, she is the most targeted player in the WNBA because she is the best player in the WNBA, no matter what anyone thinks. So let's move on to last night's game, where we had the return of DeWanna Bonner to Indiana. And as you may have guessed, she was booed by the Indiana fans. And I'm sorry, no matter what, Coach Parseltongue says, she was rightfully booed. Okay. I know. I investigated the whole DeWanna Bonner leaving the Fever thing. She couldn't find a fit here. Okay. She couldn't find a fit. She was clearly not happy with something. So the question you have to ask yourself is, did Stephanie White and the entire front office lie to all these people they brought in, including Caitlin Clark? All right. And we don't know that. We have no evidence of any of that right now. We can't say definitively that that's what happened, but it is a possibility. Or could she just generally have not had a fit here? Or did this move give her the opportunity to get where she finally wanted to be, which was the Phoenix Mercury, where her wife plays, Alyssa Thomas? That's the question. Did she come here and punk the Indiana Fever, get as much money as she could, walk away? And then all of the, what contributes to all of this, once again, is all of we have to be supportive of her during this time, as if she was going through some great hardship. People were thinking she was sick. People were thinking a family member was sick. People were thinking she was getting a divorce from her wife. It was amazing. And that's what Stephanie White told the audience. And it was probably what Stephanie White was told to tell the audience by the morons at the top of the Fever food chain. So when we find out that DeWanna Bonner gets waived, she gets whatever money she made with the Fever, she gets waived, and then she gets to sign for the minimum where her wife plays. And all of this stinks because it probably means that that's where she wanted to go to begin with, and she couldn't get signed there for what her asking money was. So she came to the Fever and pulled this stunt to get to be where her wife was. That's what I'm thinking, okay? I'm thinking that she wanted to go from the Sun to the Phoenix Mercury, and then never to the Indiana Fever. Never. And that's all we can do is use conjecture right now. So this is pure conjecture on my part, but that's sure what it looks like to me. Now, I don't know what happens to her and the Phoenix Mercury after, but it was clear that they were trying to find a trading partner for DeWanna Bonner before they waived her, and ended up cutting her loose because they couldn't find a suitable partner. And the suitable partner would mean that they would get something good in return for DeWanna Bonner. And clearly, the Phoenix Mercury weren't willing to give anybody up for her, or they would have gone for that trade. So what you do is you have a player pulling a fast one, and that's what the Indiana fans perceived, rightfully so, because none of this was up front. And when you do stuff like that, you leave this open to conjecture. So last night she was roundly booed. And in the post game, not only was that was great, but the Fever beat them, which is even better. Okay, that was a payback, and it's good. And by the way, guys, Caitlin Clark isn't worried that the team is winning without her on the court. You know, great teams can do that, and we certainly want a good basketball team. We don't want all of this on Caitlin Clark's shoulders. You know, she can't play 40 minutes a game every game. It will shorten her life, her career. We don't want that, okay? We don't. The Celtics had great teams with Bird. The Bulls had great teams with Jordan, and the Lakers had great teams with Magic. And that's what we really want. We want legitimate basketball, okay? So Caitlin Clark's not worried about that. She's excited when they win, okay? And it shows. She's not making this stuff up. So just relax, okay? But and even better, in the post-game interview, our friend there, Aaliyah Boston, refused to criticize. And of course, the media was baiting her. Refused to criticize the fans for booing DeWanna Bonner. But as you knew, there would be some kind of, I don't know, some kind of criticism. And it came from Kalia Copper, whose wig fell off the other night in the middle of the game. They had to stop the game so she could run back and put it on. Give me a break, okay? They could have picked the wig up off the floor, sat her on the bench, or let her go back to the room and put a substitute in for her, but that's not what they did. Besides that point, she thought that the booing incident was being disrespectful. This is the team who ratted out the fan who laughed at her for her wig falling off and got the fan thrown out. Listen, this is basketball, okay? This is basketball. Booing is part of every single sport. Every sport. Larry Bird got booed in a bunch of arenas. We, when we went to Celtics game, booed Kareem and Magic. You know, look at, you're going to have to grow a thicker skin than that to play sports. This kind of stuff is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, give me a break. There is just some line that doesn't need to be crossed, and that's it. Booing is part of life, okay? It's part of games. It's part of sports. Fans who pay money to get in a building, to watch a sport, get to voice their opinion. Nobody was making fun of her. No one was verbally insulting her. There were no racist comments. They were simply booing her. Get your shit together, focus on the game, and play basketball, and stop with all this nonsense about disrespecting someone because you're booing them in the middle of a sporting event. It happens. And it will continue to happen. So these little snowflake entitled basketball players need to get a clue. Okay? So, let's talk about where we are. Everybody out there I know is in the panic zone that Caitlin Clark is going to lose her starting job. I do not believe that's going to be the case. Okay? I don't. The players want her back. Sophie Cunningham said, we will adjust to her return because she brings that much to the game. Okay? They get it. They're adults. The biggest worry we have is Stephanie White using her the way that she shouldn't be used. All right, that's my biggest worry. It's not my worry. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't expect Caitlin Clark to come back and start right off the bat playing 35 minutes. When you've had somebody who's been out for almost a month, and if she does come back in the middle of August, and I don't believe she's gone for the year, she's not going to come back and play 35 minutes instantly, okay? She will be worked back up to a decent number of minutes, and there's still room for everybody else on that team to play, okay? So let's see what happens before we panic over this stuff, okay? We will see what happens. All right, that's number one. Number two, Caitlin Clark is perfectly capable of taking care of herself. She is a smart, intelligent woman who knows exactly what she wants for her career. She knows what she's going to demand, okay? And she is not going to demand it in the middle of a playoff run. And all of these people asking me questions, there was a question that came to me today, so let me talk about this too. Why don't Larry Bird and Reggie Miller step up and demand that Stephanie White be fired? Well, first of all, Larry Bird played for the Indiana Pacers. Managed the Indiana Pacers, was in the front office for the Indiana Pacers. Okay, Reggie Miller was merely a lifelong Indiana Pacer player. They have absolutely no jurisdiction to demand anybody be fired in the WNBA. Okay, they don't. They can give their opinion. And that's all they can do. And there are a lot of videos out there with Larry Bird's image in them being made that are just totally freaking bogus. Using words he's never said, because I've checked them all out. There is one legitimate video of him calling Caitlin Clark the real deal. One that I have found out of the 7 I have looked at. Okay? So let me explain to you how this works. The Indiana Fever, owned by a guy named Herb Simon, who owns a bunch of malls, shopping malls, including some here in Boston, in New England. He has deferred all decisions to the upper management of the Fever. He does not get involved in those team decisions. This is an investment for him. It's a business investment for him. All right? So that would leave the firing of Stephanie White to Kelly Krauskopf and whoever else is in her management team. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Nobody's going to fire Stephanie White right now. Nobody's going to fire Stephanie White unless the team completely tanks and doesn't make the playoffs. And we know that before the season ends. They're not on track to not make the playoffs right now. Nobody's going to cause that kind of an upheaval in a team that may be able to make a run at a championship. They may not get there this year, but they may get further than last year. They may not. They may just do the same thing they did last year and get knocked out in the first round. Okay? We don't know yet. We'll have to see. Nobody's going to fire Stephanie White right now. It's simply not a good idea. The ultimate goal is to build the team, and Caitlin Clark knows that. She is part of a team. Okay? We don't want her having to carry this franchise on her back all of her career, or however long she's here. That's far too much pressure for one player. What we want her to do is be able to play her game when she's on the court. That's the biggest concern we should have right now. And that is Caitlin Clark's biggest concern. Does she want to play 30 minutes or more? Of course she does. Will she? I believe she will. And I also believe that regardless of what happens this year, Caitlin Clark will make sure when she comes back next year that she is ready to go in midseason form from day one. I have absolutely complete faith in her as a human being and as a basketball player. I have no reason to think otherwise. She has wanted to play in the NBA, WNBA all her life. She is not going to leave and go to Europe. That is just simply not in the cards. There's not enough competition for her there. She thrives on competition. And this is where she wants to be. So if she has to drag this league kicking and screaming into legitimacy, she will do so. So we have to leave some of that up to her. Right now, she's making her mark. This year has been a derailment for her. It's a growth period for her. Okay? No matter what you think. She's only been out of college ball for a year and a half. And she has a lot of learning to do and a lot of growing to do as a player yet. She's not even completely where she's going to be as a player. If you guys can imagine her being even better than she already is, you should, because she can become better than she already is. And there are a lot of great players in the WNBA. There's a lot of not so great players, but there's a lot of great players. I'm sorry, but Sabrina Ionescu is a great player. Stewie is a great player. Okay? There are great players here. So we need to understand that, but Sabrina Ionescu and Stewie don't carry the New York Liberty on their back all by themselves. They have a great team, and they have a great coach who knows how to foster camaraderie. Okay? And who knows how to give compliments to her own players without feeling like she has to downplay her players like Stephanie White does. Because they have a whole different structure and vision than the power brokers in the Indiana Fever right now. Do I think Kelly Crosskoff is a great leader as a franchise leader? No, I don't. I don't. And we'll see how that plays out. We will see how this all plays out, but you're not going to see anything play out before the end of the year unless there is some kind of disastrous performance fall off for the team. Do I think they could have been better than they are right now under Christie Sides? In a lot of ways, I do. In a lot of ways, I think they had the building blocks to go deep into the playoffs this season. I don't know how that plays out now. Do I think they needed to add some players? I do. I think Sophie Cunningham, for sure, could have been a great addition. And there were probably other areas where they could have improved. I think getting Michaela Timpson was a great steal. And they probably would have gotten her even if Christie Sides were here, okay? That's simply the way the draft worked. So we'll see how this all plays out. We'll see how it all plays out at the end of the day. And, you know, one way or another, Caitlin Clark would not want us to wish the Fever ill will. It is her team as well. Okay? That's where she plays basketball. And all of these people projecting that she's miserable and unhappy and whatever, she may well not be happy with the situation, but this is not the time when she's just simply not going to raise that issue now. It would not be fair to her players. She is a team player above all things. All of that will be dealt with in due time. So I will see you guys later. I'm getting ready to go to work. I have a closing shift instead of my usual opening shift today. And we will be back later. You guys have a great day.